Drunk Nation, this clear to board. Watch your step. To rock, literally.
We're in the middle of the ocean somewhere, broadcasting live to the U.S. and Canada. We are indeed on a boat.
Welcome to Drunk Nation at Sea.
I've been a fan since I was 5.
Live from the biggest rock cruise around.
It's pretty crazy.
And now, the Megalodon of metal and your rock and roll cruise director, Eddie Trunk.
All right, we are back, and we are live from the Monsters of Rock cruise here. We are in a port. We're not moving yet. I think we're sailing at around 5 or so. Extreme is going to play for the first time, and they're going to play the pool stage for our sail away, and we're going to kind of do our big sail away photo because, as we were talking about earlier with Larry Morand, who produces the cruise, we weren't able to do that on the day we left Florida, which was on Saturday because weather was crazy for a bit, but we're going to get that ceremonial big shot in today as we leave from the Dominican in a few hours, and I'm looking forward to making that happen and being a part of that and kicking it off. We're kicking off the cruise halfway through it, but hey, it'll feel good. It'll be like we're starting all over again, like no time has passed. Joining me now, we have one of the things I love about being on, a lot of things I love about being on the cruise, but one of the things I love about doing radio on the cruise is the ability to see artists from different eras, different ages, different backgrounds, and get a chance to meet and interact, and sometimes put them on the air together. And joining me now, sitting right next to me, is a guy that, my gosh, I've known forever, and it's always great to see him. And he's on here. We'll find out what he's doing on here in a second. But David Ellefson is here. Everybody knows David, of course, best known as former Megadeth bassist, and recently doing the Kings of Thrash, right, which we got to talk about as well. So it's great to see you, David. And on the end here joining us is a younger artist who, my gosh, I met her when she was like 10 or something. I'm not even kidding. It was probably like, you were like super young. You're still super young. You're always going to be super young to me. But vocalist GabrieLa, good to see you, Gabby.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
When was the first time you started doing this? How old were you?
My first Monsters, I was 15.
See, I'm not that far off.
You're not, well, 10 was a little bit of a jump.
I guess so.
But I met you when I was 15, yeah.
And was it on the cruise?
It was on the cruise, yeah.
And you were singing, or you were doing...
Yeah, I was doing an acoustic performance. It was my first time doing anything remotely like this. I was here with Patrick Kennison of Lita Ford.
Yeah.
We did a couple of acoustic performances around the boat, and most amazing experience of my life that just kind of skyrocketed what was to come for me.
Yeah, how's it feel to be back on? What are you up to on here? Are you singing with different people?
Yes,
or?
so, well, tonight, this is kind of like a last minute thing. I'm doing the Rare Hair Jam. So we're doing some Heart, and I'm super excited about that. Tyler Torrey is going to be joining me on drums. I'm so excited. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to be in the Viking Crown Lounge doing my own acoustic performance with Nuno and Joel.
So, okay, so a couple things. And Tyson was going to come by. So Rare Hair is a jam that happens here that Tyson Leslie, who is the keyboard player in Vixen, but he puts that on, and it's a really, really great jam. And all these different musicians. I mean, there's probably 40, 50 bands. Larry, how many bands are on this ship this year? 40? 40 bands, so figure... You know, if there's 4 or 5 people in every band, I'm terrible at math. You're much younger, Gabby. How many people
Oh, no,
is that?
I didn't pass math. You don't want to go there.
But however, needless to say, a lot of musicians, and the interaction like we're going to do right here is great, and everybody wants to get together and jam and whatever. So you're kind of here in that capacity to kind of jam and do what have
Exactly.
you.
Just jump up when I'm needed.
Now, you mentioned Nuno, who's here playing with Extreme, and who is going to be playing in a little bit. He has kind of like worked with you, right?
Yes.
Like produced you and all that. Talk about his role in your career.
So he has a production company / indie label called Atlantis. I've been signed to his label for a few years now, and he is producing my debut record. We're writing together. So he's kind of taken me under his wing, and we're just creating who I am as an artist as myself. And we've been working together for a few years, and it's amazing.
And how long have you been doing TSO now?
Oh my God, time's going by. I'm going into my 3rd year.
So for 3 years, you've been a singer in Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yes.
And do you do the West or the East?
I'm on East.
You're on the East. Mm-hmm. That experience, all the musicians I know have been a part of it, have just said is amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. I've never done anything like it. I've never done any other tour like it. We do 2 shows a day in every city that we go to, but it's such a family unit, and it's amazing to tour with such incredibly talented people.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing the juggernaut that TSO is turned into. It really is, and it's awesome that you're a part of it. I know there's some great people and some great musicians,
Yes.
and you're a great addition to that. I got to see you. You do the East Coast one. That's normally the one I catch, so hopefully I'll catch you doing that one of these times. So when do you plan the record to come out? When will people hear you?
It's coming. So, I'm kind of one of those stories where COVID, the pandemic, kind of slowed our roll down a little bit, but now we're picking it back up. We've shot a few music videos for some of the originals that we've done. We just released a song, actually, called Most Wanted. It's this fun, punky garage band music video that's fun. Nuno directed, produced it. So it's coming. We've released that single. There's another single called Use Me that we've put out. I'm actually going to be doing it tomorrow night during my set. But the full picture is coming together, and it's coming really soon.
And for people that haven't heard your music, your background, your influences are a lot of hard rock stuff.
Yes,
Dio
yes.
and Michael Sweet and people like that. So is the music you're going to make in your own career hard rock, or is it different?
It's different. So one of the reasons why I wanted to work with Nuno is because he knew my background. I've worked with a lot of people over the years who have kind of said to me, well, because of the age that you are, you have to be a pop singer. That's just the way that it goes. And that's not who I naturally felt like I was. I grew up listening to rock. My dad raised me on all the classic bands. So when I worked with Nuno, I also do like pop music. So I wanted an element of that, but I didn't want to stray away from my roots, my rock roots. And that's what Nuno was able to bring to me. He's like, let's stick with those bands that influenced you and inspired you, but just add a new twist to it. So I would say pop rock. Some of my new music is kind of in the Avril kind of lane.
Okay.
But there's a lot that kind of nods to, my background here.
All right, nice. Good stuff. Well, we look forward to that record. That sounds exciting. Now, Mr. Ellefson over here.
Yes, Eddie, how are you?
You are a man of many bands and many projects. Most recently, was it Kings of Thrash? Would that be the most recent?
Kings of Thrash, yep.
Tell me how that all came together and how that went.
It's so funny because Jeff Young, who is my partner in that,
right,
was in...
another former Megadeth member.
Megadeth, yep, so far so good. So he and Chris Poland were this last weekend were just up at the Chiller Theater, right? Because they do Chiller twice a year, right? They do it Halloween and then in April. And I obviously opted to be on the boat and do this. But Chris Poland was texting me going, man, I can't believe the overwhelming unconditional love for Megadeth up here, and Killing Is My Business and Peace Sells. And I said, Chris, if you remember, that was where I got the idea to do Kings of Thrash. Because right after that, Megadeth had just gone through the area. It was my first time, not being in the group at that time. And people were bringing the Killing Is My Business record in droves. And I remember when we remixed the Final Kill, which is the third time it's been remixed and remastered, I brought up the idea, why don't we just go play Killing Is My Business like one night only? It'll totally take 32 minutes. That's how long the record is, right? It's super short. And I couldn't get it to go. And so I just thought, I got to go play this record. It deserves it. There's a lot of fans. You'll never hear these songs played live by that group anymore, is my hunch. They're meant to be played in small venues. So I between Chris Poland and I called Jeff and I said, man, let's do this. Let's put it together. So we did 4 dates back in October last year with Chris Poland as our special guest. And we just put the record out with Cleopatra, and we serviced the whole thing out to radio.
It's a live record?
Live record, yep,
right?
live record and DVD. And then we put together a whole tour. We wanted to just do a U.S. tour. We played the Gramercy by you, the Starwood, or the Ballroom. It's not Starwood Ballroom, is it?
Hammerstein.
In New Jersey.
Oh, Starland.
Starland. Yeah, Starland. So we did a whole run. Was super cool. We're going to go to Australia in July and go down and do dates down there. So... between that and then I've got this other group, Dieth, over in Poland.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about that on the air. Tell us about that.
So that's interesting. That's my foray into death metal, I guess. Even though I don't think it's a death metal band, quite honestly. In fact, we're approving the video we just shot that I'm actually singing the lead vocal on. It's a ballad.
Sounds so death metal, though, David.
It is.
Dieth.
It's funny. When we were shooting the first video a year ago, I was over in Europe, and so the guitar player Guilherme is from Entombed AD. The drummer, Mihal, is from Decapitated. So, I mean, these are true dyed-in-the-wool.
Right now, Gabby Ray's
death
looking at
metal
us
guys.
like, what the hell are you guys
It's
talking
scary.
about? What on
It's
earth?
okay. I'm learning. I'm learning so much.
You're learning about death metal.
Exactly.
And in 20 years, when Gabby Ray decides to do death metal,
Yeah,
then
which
Death
you
metal
will.
album.
Which you will.
Of course I
It's in
will.
your future.
And I
yes.
will call you.
Please do. That'll be it. We'll put together and we'll call. We'll.
you need a much more
get
death
Nuno.
metal name than
Yeah.
Gabby Ray.
Ray.
though.
Gabby
you're
Ray.
You're
Gabby
going to
Ray
need
does
like,
death metal.
all those guys have great death metal names.
Are they? That's why I thought Dieth.
But that's a great name for the band. But I mean,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the band, they all have different names.
And usually, the heavier the band, the logo is like made out of sticks of trees. And
Can't
you can't
read it.
read them. Yeah, that's kind of
more
a,
ineligible. Yeah.
a quintessential death metal name.
Not
You
to
can't read
divert
it,
from this, but I had the band Dimmu Borgir, who I've told this story before, who are very big in that world, but I don't know all that well.
Right.
They're playing in New York across the street from the studio that I was broadcasting from like 20 years ago.
Right.
And I saw this line of people, and I said to my friend who was the promoter, I'm like, who is that band like drawing that many people? He told me, I've never heard of them. I said, I got to go over there and at least find out what's going on. So I meet a guy from the band. I don't remember which guy it was, and I introduced myself. And he said, I'm doing radio across the street. It's a radio show here in New York City. I said, I'd love to have you come on, tell the story, educate me about this scene or whatever.
Right.
He goes, yeah. I go, what's your name? So, I can get you in. Yeah, he said, Justin or something. I was like, all right, cool. And then he comes on, and I'm just like, introduce him. I'm like, Justin's here from Dimmu Borgir. And see him look across the counter, like, no. My name is like, solenoid, death mask or something. And I'm like, oh, shit. I had no idea. But
Hey, you know who else was that? And I got to say, one of the real hidden gems, there's a couple. Last night, Todd Latore from Queensryche doing comedy. That was a true hidden gem, right? I mean, that was friggin' awesome, wasn't it? He was. But the other one is Wigwam, right? I completely missed this band, right? And I'm with Will Hunt, who's playing drums on the boat with Stephen Piercy and plays with Evanescence. And he and his wife are at the bar. They're like, oh, yeah, we're going to go down and see Wigwam. I'm like, what is Wigwam? And I missed this whole HBO thing.
Me
I guess
too,
they've had this whole resurgence. I went down and I saw them, and they're from Norway, I believe. So they got the same thing. They've got these, and I met the singer, Glam, I guess is his stage name, but his real name is some very Norwegian name that even as an Ellefson being Norwegian, I can't pronounce.
Right.
But it was the same thing. So I guess even Wigwam, being glam dudes, they have these names like Dimmu Borgir, right?
they have death metal names in
They
the
have
glam band.
glam band names.
That's
Yes,
really
yes,
cool.
Yes,
That's really out there.
So they're kind of like the Norwegian Steel Panther, I guess.
So this new band, Dieth. When is that coming?
June 2nd, out on Napalm Records.
Okay.
We're doing a worldwide thing, and we're going over to Europe. So I'm going to pretty much spend the summer there. We're doing Grass Pop and a bunch of stuff in Portugal and France and doing all the festivals and dates. It looks like with Sepultura and things like that. So,
nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I'm excited. The festival season, look, I live in Phoenix. It's hot there. It's a good time to be out of there.
Yeah.
And to be back over in Europe and, hanging and doing the festival thing over there is great. I'm really excited about it.
And you're here on the ship kind of in the same capacity as Gabby is, right?
Yes,
You're just hanging, jamming with some people, doing some different things.
Yep, and our friend Larry Moran, the organizer, he did the mega cruise a couple years ago, so we became friends on that, and I worked my tail off on that and had a great time. And I see a lot of the mega cruisers here, out here, so it's great to reconnect with with our friends and fans and everybody. So it's great. I feel like I'm at home here. So
I forgot we did Mega Cruise. I was, of course, on that as well. Obviously, at that time, Dave was going through some stuff and wasn't on the cruise, which was a bummer. But you made up for it. You more than carried the slack there, and everyone else, and made the best of it.
And I'd done cruises, so I knew how to do it. So when Dave couldn't be there, I was like, I got this, And I told Kiko and Bergen, I said, just get in line and know what we're doing. Just follow me. In fact, I remember I was putting the All-Star Jam together, and I was looking at the set list was kind of too metal allegiance. It was too heavy metal because all day there's going to be heavy metal bands, right? So I call Frank Bello. I go, dude, what do we do? And he goes, man, everybody loves a Kiss jam. So between me and Frank, Doro, Chuck Billy, and Charlie Benante, we put together, I think, like the ultimate Kiss jam, and it was just so cool, man. So Doro, she's an '80s Kiss fan. I'm a 70s Kiss fan, so between it, we had it all covered. So everybody really pitched in and made that thing work.
And I forgot about Metal Allegiance. Is that still something you're doing?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, they went down and did a show at Rock in Rio last year, but it was kind of it was mostly the Bay Area Strikes Back tour, right? Wasn't that what it was? With Exodus and Testament. I know Testament had not ever been down to South America, so it was mostly that crew that went down and did that one.
And I'm curious about this. Now, it's been a little time now that you've been out of Megadeth, and now that there's some distance from that, what's life been like for you? Have you really embraced and enjoyed doing all these different things? Has it freed you up to do this different sort of stuff? And has that kind of been a silver lining in all of it for you?
It's actually been fine. I mean, look, it's been 40 years, right, since we started the group this year, June '83 coming up. So. Honestly, I have enjoyed it. And it's funny, even in the years, the first 20 years I didn't do anything other than I wrote a book and, that was about it. So I stayed really true to that. Dave broke the group up in 2002, and that sort of forced me into a season of stepping out and doing other things. My friend Al Petrelli, who, right, your Trans-Siberian brother.
Yes.
He was in Megadeth at that time, and I called him up, and he'd done a lot of sideman work. And it was interesting because he had actually just left Megadeth right at the end to go back to work with Paul O'Neill in Trans-Siberian. That was really when TSO got its big upswing. And it's funny, he had actually asked me to play bass in it. That year, it was that would have been '01, and I was sick. I was just worn out from being on the road, and I said, "Man, I need a break to just go home and just relax." But he was a good friend to me, and he just said, "Man, brother, you just say yes to things. You be available when people call you. Say yes." And so I've taken his advice. So when like this, come on the cruise. Hey, do you want to be part of the jam? You want to do Rare Hair? You want to do this? Do you want to join a death metal band in Poland? Sure.
Why not?
I got some extra freaking fire miles.
Let's
Why
just
not,
create a death metal band right now.
Okay,
we're doing
done.
it.
We are making news on the Monsters of Rock cruise. Gabby Ray, David Ellefson, new death metal band coming soon.
Yes.
We need a name, though. We need to come up with...
I say we make it a contest right here.
I
There's a
think
lot
so.
of death metal-looking people right here in the bar. I say,
We're going to let you name our
this
band.
guy right here.
We're going to let you name our band.
The guy with the mohawk. Yes, get him.
Definitely need to come up with a great death metal name for that. So that's cool. Yeah, and our mutual buddy Mike Portnoy. I mean, that it's kind of like when he was out of Dream Theater. It was like a big upheaval at that time, and then Mike. When you talk to him about it now he's cool with them again, which is great.
Right.
But he has all the opportunity to do all these different projects and bands. Yeah. And I see a little bit of that in you. You were always aggressive in doing stuff, books. Right. You had your own record label. I don't know if you're still doing that. I mean, you had a lot of that stuff that was coming out.
Yeah, I kind of scaled the label back to be a little bit more to put out the records that I want to put out. With Combat especially. The coffee thing. We still do coffee. We ship internationally. We got that piece of it figured out. Those are just kind of little, pet projects like that. But, yeah, I mean, look, Mike Portnoy's kind of the antithesis. He's the poster boy for being in one group and then stepping out and doing a ton of different things. But, look, Mike's a great drummer. He's in demand. He's a guy we want to hear play. And I guess it's kind of the same thing with bass. I guess I'm probably one of the few guys where as a bass player, to be invited into so many different settings. I'd like to think with a style and a sound that it's me when you hear it, yet I'm adaptable, and I can play, in different things. And I think with the Dia thing, it's interesting because starting to come out now as a singer. I sing on a couple of the tracks, one couple tracks that I wrote for the record. So I was always a singer in bands pre-Megadeth. And then, once you get in a band and you need that defined voice, which I think that was kind of part of that thing. I mean, there's some bands, Kiss, obviously, they have two singers. There's a few bands that have a couple of vocalists. But for the most part, it's usually one identifiable voice. And now having, been through that whole season of my life, now it's sort of a, instead of asking why, I'm like, why not? Let's go do it. Let's just get in the room and make it happen.
Is there any side to you that would like to join an established band again?
Look, having as me and Mike Portnoy have talked about, the big gig fix, the big rock gig fix. Yeah, of course, those are great. I think right now, and I've had a couple of calls on a couple of things initially, and I wasn't really in a headspace to do it. So I just kind of took the season to just go out and be the artist guy, start new things. And it's interesting because even when I started playing the bass at age 11, my first bands, I was always a founder. I always put my own bands together. And outside of, some co-write stuff I've done with Ministry and, various things that I've done. I've pretty much always been a founding member of everything that I've done. So and I'm not opposed to it. Look, I just honestly on this boat right here, I'm a fan of like most of the bands. I got to see Kix last night for the first time ever. I've been such a fan of them. I certainly want to see Stephen Pearcy. I'm a huge Rat fan, so I want to. I'm a fan of the stuff that's here. In fact, my neighbor is Paul Taylor, who's a keyboard player in Winger.
Sure.
And I met Kip and Paul. They were in Alice Cooper's band in 1987 when Alice took us out on the P-Cells tour. And I remember Kip saying to me on the tour, he goes, "Man, I really wish I was doing what you're doing." And I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me, dude? You're playing with Alice Cooper. You're staying in the Four Seasons. Like, you've got the nice bus and all the great things. You get a real paycheck, Our driver insists we give him cocaine every night before we drive,
Wow.
You've got the better gig. But he told me, he said, but you're starting something that's going to be yours forever. And then he and Paul started, on that tour, started going off on days off and writing what became that first Winger record.
Yeah.
And, so he, my kudos to those guys, for I guess, kind of following the same thing. So, I don't know. It's a little bit of all of it, I think, now.
Gabby, for you, what kind of artists on this ship have you had a chance to see, and who are you looking forward to seeing that you haven't?
Oh, my Lord. So I saw opening night. Of course, I run to Queensryche, as I do every time. Obviously, Kix. I did get to see Stephen Pearcy, and, I've seen him so many times, and the fangirl in me just never goes away. The coolness that he has on stage, and just the stage presence, like, he just kills me every time. I have to go see an Extreme today. I haven't been able to see Stryper yet, which for me, everybody knows my Uncle Michael. I feel like I have to go see him, of course. But, yeah, I mean, there's just so many. I make a list.
You bring up a good point about Pearcy because he's I've always said that he's a very different kind of frontman. Even back in the day, even before you were born, when we used to see him on MTV and stuff. Back in the day, he was not like. He was never the guy that came out like the David Lee Roth and, hold your hands in the air and let people applaud and that larger-than-life guy. But there was this always cool swagger about how, and still is, about how he moves on stage and how he fronts and what he does. I think that's a really, that's a really good point that people kind of overlook with Steve, and he's always brought that. And I make the case with Rat all the time, and you said you were a Rat fan too, right,
Big time.
David?
I love Rat.
I mean, when you think about it with Rat, I mean, I've said this often. If you look record to record, hit to hit, video to video, to me, they're right there with Motley. Maybe even more in terms of like actual hit songs and huge videos.
Dude, that Best of Rat is my every time I'm flying, I listen to that. That's a go-to record. And you're right, man. Pound
People
for pound, their
how
hit
many
songs,
hits they had.
Huge.
Tons.
Of them. Yep.
Like a really big run of like 4 or 5 albums, top to bottom, really good too. That was really... And it's weird how they, because of their own admitted internal dysfunction and issues, they've not been able to run with that. They've not been able to, where Motley, I've always said this about Motley because I always compare them same scene, same time and all that. Yeah. Where Motley was brilliant in exploiting all their insanity.
Right.
Rat had a lot of insanity too, tragedy, drugs, death, etc. But Motley turned it into books and movies, which I think elevated their whole story.
100%.
Where Rat just kind of like imploded from the dysfunction, and that's maybe why we're there.
It's hard to harness your dysfunction, because by its nature, dysfunction blows everything apart, right? And
you probably know something about it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, God bless Nikki for doing that. But Nikki got cleaned up too, and I think that's a big part of it. Is being present and being aware and knowing how to sort of take your past and bring it together into a story that, of course, is shocking, right? I mean, if you die, that's shocking, especially if you come back to life, and like he did. But he's lived to tell about it, and I think he's done a great job with it. And they embrace it too. They're not ashamed of it. They don't worry about being canceled by it. They don't worry about any of that pop culture bullshit. They just frickin' go with it, man.
Right.
And you know what? That's what we do as rockers, right? Like, we don't worry about that crap. We speak our own language, and we stay strong. We stick by each other, and that's what we do.
And Gabby Ray is smart because she's coming out as a solo artist, so she doesn't have to deal with any bullshit. She will be the boss in her career.
I learned from all of you.
Yes.
You will
Good
crack
job.
the whip. You will set everybody straight, and you will be the don't look me directly in the eye when I walk down the hall person.
No, if I ever become that person, you can give me me a little smack on the head. I promise.
Uncle Eddie. Uncle Eddie will keep you in line.
Uncle Eddie.
Yeah.
I knew you were just a kid. You're still a kid. Jeez. Well, I appreciate both of you coming by and spending a few minutes here. And I see Todd Latore here. I see Jason Beeler here. I see Jim Florentine here. So maybe we'll get another. We got 3 headsets. Maybe we'll throw them on headsets here in a second. And let's plan to do that. Anything you guys want to hit before we go to break? Gabby, the record again is when?
It's coming out. We don't have a specific date. It's coming. Nuno's putting his finishing touches on it. I am currently, in the meantime, I'm doing a YouTube show right now called The Tea, which is actually telling stories about my life growing up in this world. I'm doing an episode coming up about my first Monsters of Rock and how it shaped me into who I am and like coming back and what that feels like. So that's on my YouTube. You can check that out. That's what's going on in my world.
Is it just your name, your YouTube at
Yes.
Gabby Ray?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we'll look forward to that. Look forward to the record, and before you know it, it'll be TSO season, and you'll be out there. That gets longer and longer. They start Christmas in July.
I'm
now,
already mentally preparing.
It's just like it's long. It stays longer after Christmas. It starts like in the summer. Not that much, but it's getting there. But hey, people go. Why not?
Yes.
And you.
We just said it.
Death, you said it. You
Yep.
covered it all. So you got a lot of stuff going on. Social media, just at your name, right?
Yeah, everything's at my name.
All right.
Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
Keep up with everything going on with these talented artists. And thank you. Thank you guys both
Thank
for coming
you.
by. Gabby
Thanks,
Ray,
Eddie.
David Ellefson, everybody from the Monsters of Rock Cruise. We will go to a break, and we'll come back, and we will welcome... I see Todd's here. I see Jason's here. Jim's here. We'll get another little roundtable going here from Playmakers on board the Monsters of Rock Cruise live on Trunk Nation, Faction Talk, Sirius XM Channel 103, and, of course, the Sirius XM app. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Trunk Nation, broadcasting live from somewhere in the ocean. More from your rock and roll cruise director, Eddie Trunk, in just a little bit.